Every October, the United States has recognized the voyage of the European explorers who first landed on the shores of the Americas. But that is not the whole story. That has never been the whole story.
His memory stands as an enduring testament to the daring spirit that built our great civilization. And as long as I have anything to say about this, and I hope that's going to be a long time, it will always be Columbus Day.
Ain't nothing changed, nothing new here to see. This ain't nothing but some political maneuvering.
America!
Welcome to the eulogy, eat it up. It's called political buffoonery.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to This Week in DUMBmocracy, where we showcase some of the dumbest news makers of the week. We just endured our annual national debate of Columbus Day versus Indigenous Peoples Day. To me, it's all silly, and I'm going to get into why in this video. But as you would imagine, given my last name, Berardelli, you kind of know what side of this debate I traditionally fall on. Columbus Day to me is not necessarily about the man himself, but about a source of pride in my heritage. I'm an American of Italian descent. My family comes from Italy. That's where all our family traditions come from. And I take pride in those traditions and those values instilled in me. But I identify as American first. And in that way, it gives me sort of a unique perspective on this debate because, honestly, it's all about politics, no matter which way you look at it. And frankly, I've had enough of this whole debate. I don't care either way about Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day. All it is a political football that different people have carried over the years. And I'm going to show you what I mean in this video. But before I get there, I'm going to ask you guys to please subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. And if you like what you see in here in this or any other video on the channel, you know what to do. You're going to smash that thumbs up button. Like, comment, share the show with your friends, all that good stuff, because all that's going to help the show grow via the YouTube algorithm.
Yes, that's it. Feed me.
As always, gang, thank you so much for all that you do to help grow the channel. You know I appreciate all of your efforts. And for all you newbies out there who may be finding the channel for the first time, I hope this video earns a subscription as we talk about why both Columbus Day and Indigenous Peoples Day is all about politics and, frankly, about the politics of division. In order to understand Columbus Day, I think we have to understand the origins of Columbus Day.
How? We travel back in time.
This op-ed in the Washington Post from C.W. Goodyear, it's as good a place as any to look back at these origins. Let's get into this article now. Another Columbus Day is upon us, and many Americans will spend the occasion debating the propriety of observing the holiday, given that Columbus's arrival to the New World in 1492 came at horrendous cost to indigenous people, hence the tension between the two holidays. And while these are important conversations for Americans to be having, those Americans will likely overlook an important bit of history because Columbus Day's origins are much bloodier and more complicated than they realize. Its modern place as a national holiday is an accident, according to Goodyear, an unexpected result of toxic immigration politics of the Gilded Age, the 1890s, around the time we'll be talking about, racial violence in the South, and the actions of a mostly forgotten president, that being Benjamin Harrison. So in 1890, the New Orleans police chief, David Hennessy, was mortally wounded by a volley of shotgun fire. When asked about the identity of his assailants, his reply was a racial slur towards Italian Americans.
I hate them Italian bastards.
Now, during this time period, Italian Americans were coming to the United States looking for the American dream, seeking opportunity on this side of the Atlantic. Unfortunately, their eagerness to work, readiness to accept low pay, and their strong cultural cohesion, their togetherness, the commonality of their values of family, faith, and language stirred sentiment among Americans already here. Of course, it's that old trope, these immigrants are coming to take our jobs, and therefore we must hate them. That was a big part of it, but also a part of it was this spike in crime that was being blamed on Italians, bringing this supposed mafioso culture to America.
There's no mafia.
Hatred for these immigrants practically became official city policy in New Orleans. The mayor even said that Italians, quote, lacked honor, truth, pride, religion, and any quality that goes to make a good citizen. Except the Poles, we know of no other nationality which is as objectionable as a people. Why are Polish people always catching strays when it comes to these sorts of discussions? So Hennessy's assassination catalyzed an awful cycle of ethnic violence in New Orleans. What ended up happening was police fanned out and started arresting every Italian you come across. That led to many mistrials in connection with the crimes that are being reported, including Hennessy's death, and many acquittals as well because they were rounding up people that didn't do anything. That resulted in a very frustrated citizenry in New Orleans who broke into the city jail in 1891 and killed every Italian they can find. Bodies dangled from the French Quarter and lampposts by the afternoon of March 14th in 1891. The murders would be described as the largest lynching in American history. You got that, folks? Lynching often associated with slavery. The largest one happened in New Orleans in 1891, and the victims were Italian Americans.
You have learned something, and I have learned something.
As we go forward in this story, this led to tensions rising between the United States and Italy. Italy even recalled their ambassador to the United States, and there was even rumors of war floating around between the two countries. So what's a president to do? They got to sort of deal with this escalating tension internationally, as well as this racism happening in the South at home. So what did he do? First, Harrison unilaterally used White House funds to pay apology money to the families of the victims of the lynchings from March of 1891.
I demand reparations.
Second, Harrison noted that the upcoming date of October 21st, 1892 would be the 400th anniversary of Christopher Columbus landing in the New World. This provided political opportunity for him and a way to publicly acknowledge the place of Italians in American history. So he delivered basically a civics lesson and created this holiday by executive proclamation, talking about the great contributions of Columbus and how this would be a general holiday for the people of the United States. And on that day, let the people, so far as possible, cease from toil. I love the way they talked back then, and devote themselves to such exercises as may best express honor to the discoverer and their appreciation of the great achievements of the 4 completed centuries of American life. This is how we ended up with Columbus Day, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody else in between. It was a political stunt, a way to quell tensions in the South and racism towards Italians that almost escalated into war. Basically, all this suggests is that Columbus Day was an accidental federal observation that happened to be convenient at the time. Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show. You notice I didn't talk about Columbus himself? I didn't talk about Columbus sailing the ocean blue in 1492 and discovering America and coming up with great things to say about him. You notice I also didn't talk about Columbus in a negative way in the alleged atrocities that he committed? Because the holiday has nothing to do with him. But in today's politics, Columbus Day remains the same political football it was, just with different motivations behind it. Instead of using the holiday to quell anti-Italian sentiments and to maybe stop a war between the United States and Italy, it's used for other reasons. For instance, Donald Trump had this to say about Columbus Day.
Monday, our nation commemorated the legendary achievements of an intrepid Italian explorer, Christopher Columbus. And today from Columbus Circle, and you know all about Columbus Circle. We love Columbus Circle in New York.
Okay.
And Columbus, Ohio, what a great place that is, too.
Oh,
Our
okay,
nation's
yeah.
capital. The District of Columbia. His memory stands as an enduring testament to the daring spirit that built our great civilization. And as long as I have anything to say about this, and I hope that's going to be a long time, it will always be Columbus Day.
Don't you think you're laying it on a bit thick?
Okay, so Trump went a little overboard on part of Harrison's declaration here, that being to honor the discoverer, to honor Columbus, who stood in his age as the pioneer of progress and enlightenment, as Harrison said in his original proclamation. But Trump also embodies America first, right? So the other part of the intention behind the origin of Columbus Day is an appreciation of the achievements of American life since Columbus. He kind of nails it, but there's a little too much emphasis on Columbus the man, which offends everybody else and has led to this reactionary holiday of Indigenous Peoples Day. Kamala Harris, back in October 2021, had this to say about this remembrance, this holiday.
It is an honor, of course, to be with you this week as we celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day, as we speak truth about our nation's history. Since 1934, every October, the United States has recognized the voyage of the European explorers who first landed on the shores of the Americas. But that is not the whole story. That has never been the whole story. Those explorers ushered in a wave of devastation for tribal nations, perpetrating violence, stealing land, and spreading disease. We must not shy away from this shameful past, and we must shed light on it and do everything we can to address the impact of the past on Native communities today.
So you see what's going on here. Kamala Harris first disregards the actual origin of Columbus Day, being in the 1890s. She only goes to 1934. She disregards any mention of Columbus, now grouping in all European explorers and all the devastation that all of them had for indigenous populations here, and wants to focus on remembering what happened to those people in place of what the original intention for the holiday was.
Your textbook liberal agenda.
So Kamala Harris is disregarding Italian American culture. She's disregarding the original intention of the holiday having little to do with Columbus, remembering him as an explorer, but also remembering that this is a holiday celebrating the progress of America. This country that has influenced the world so much since 1492, since 1776 going beyond, since 1890 going beyond even to that, to this day. He wants to ignore all that and create a mournful remembrance of what happened to indigenous people. I certainly think that has its place in American society as well. People should learn everything about history, both sides of it. Whatever side you choose to celebrate and commemorate, I leave up to you, but it's clear that, like Harrison, and certainly like Trump, Kamala Harris is using this occasion as a political football. So you see, friends, Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day, whatever you choose to celebrate, never forget it is a political holiday. It was manifested and created and born from political desperation and political opportunism, has since morphed into a dueling debate politically between remembering the American life created as a result of one person's explorations versus the harm resulting from exploration of the New World in general and how that affects different people. But ultimately, it's all about votes, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody in between. It's about now traditional values and the celebration of a traditional holiday versus the reaction to that traditional holiday and looking to gain support from a different segment of the population, all for votes. That's what this is all about. For Benjamin Harrison, when they created it in 1890, it was about quelling the nation, preventing war, stopping violence, stopping toxic immigration and racism, and solving the nation's problems, to now it's become a debate over the values of our nation. Make no mistake, this has nothing to do anymore with Italian culture, unfortunately. Although those of us who are of Italian descent, we do hold this date sacred and remember the real origins of this holiday, and remember that this is a day to take pride in heritage and culture and language and cuisine and all the things that aren't necessarily about the man and the explorer, Columbus himself. So, what I'm taking from all this, celebrate whatever the you want.
Language.
I really don't care either way. I'm going to use this as a way to talk about pride in my heritage, in my family, in my culture. If you want to talk about it in a negative light and be negative that way, cool, you do you.
Lure children into her gingerbread house for all I care. We're going out for pasta.
Everything else is politics. And politics fucks everything up. But listen, hey, that's just my opinion on all of this. Let me know what you think about this raging debate between Columbus Day and Indigenous Peoples Day if you have an opinion on it. And as always, like and share the video with your friends, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss another show. Do you think this is all just political buffoonery? I certainly do it, but I'd love to hear your opinions about this in the comments together, talking about this political buffoonery and any other political buffoonery you see happening this week in DUMBmocracy.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.